Brilliant, brilliant. Hey, thanks, Mike. Hey, so as most people here are aware, we've got a pretty big change happening next week. Thanks, Matt. With us shifting out of this building and over into the grasslands. And again, in case you've missed it, the reason this is happening is because an incredible renovation is taking place through our entire foyer, and the whole cafe area is going to be totally redone, remodernized, and we're going to come back in a few months' time into something incredibly special where some of the pillars out the front are going to make the place feel more welcoming. There's going to be new doors that have some more light coming in. It's going to be really, really quite special. But what that means is over the next few months, while all this work's taking place, we've got to sort of uproot ourselves and move into a different building. And so next Sunday, a lot is going to change. We're going to be in a different room. We're going to be probably parking our cars maybe in different places. There's going to be a different layout. Everything's going to look and feel a little bit different. So some of you might not even know where the grasslands is, let alone have ever been in it before. But what I've been thinking about over this last week in particular is that what actually happens in the first few weeks as we move into this new building matters a whole lot more than the building itself. You see, when a lot around us shifts, when a lot around us changes, we find out what we're really made of as a community. And I think in some ways actually being able to move, shifting things up like this is actually a gift, because it's who we are, not where we are, that really matters. It's who we are as a community. It's who we are as people, not where we are, that really matters. You see this happen in life, right? Like some people will move cities, they'll move places to try and get something new, but what they'll realize is that where they are, there they are. And it's who you are, not where you are, that really matters. And I just think this gives us a chance to just be really intentional about who we are as a community. And one thing I want to speak to as we think about this change, as we move into a new space, is this idea of what it looks like for us to be a host, not a guest in that space. You see, I think a lot of us have experienced this. Maybe you've been invited to a party where you know the host but not a whole lot of other people. Maybe you've signed up to a new club, or you've joined a new gym, or maybe even you've got together at a school event where there's a whole lot of parents getting together, and you walk into that space, or you walk into that room, or you walk into that club, and you're like, man, I don't know if I know anyone here, and it can be a bit outside your comfort zone, right? And you walk into the space for the very first time, and I'm sure you've experienced this somewhere, we've all experienced this somewhere, and you walk in and you look around and you're like, okay, I don't really know anyone here, and it feels real awkward. You've got that real awkward first few moments, right? And what do you do? Often today you might reach into your pocket and get your phone out and start to do something on your phone. Maybe you'll look around for like whether there's a drink you can go and get, or some food you can get, or maybe there's a bit of a line there, so if you line up for that, it sort of makes you feel like, man, I'm not alone and isolated here. You do anything you can to scan that crowd, right, from a familiar face that you can go and like latch onto. And in those moments, it's a really scary place because you feel vulnerable. You feel, hey, am I being seen? Am I wanted here? Do people even care that I'm here? Does my presence here actually make a difference? Come on, you can think of those times, right, where you've been in that place. You've also been into a situation like that where you've walked in and then the room's the same, the feeling's the same, but rather than you feeling isolated, you feel a level of assurance because someone's noticed you, because someone's seen you, because someone's walked from one side of the room to come to you to say hi to you, to get to know you, and all of a sudden so much of that anxiety, so much of that feeling on the inside can just disappear. See, that's the kind of place that we should be. We've all experienced that. We know the power of it. And in fact, I recently started going along to this gym, and when I walked into the gym, the people at the counter were incredibly kind. They were like, "Hey, how you doing? Great to see you." And they had a big smile on their face, and then they'd greet you as you walked in the door. But then, and they did an excellent job. But then you'd walk into the changing room, or you'd walk onto the gym floor, you'd walk into a class, and if the people on the floor didn't talk to you, the people in the changing room didn't talk to you, the people in the class kind of did their class and left, you kind of feel like, oh man, like, am I an awkward person here? But all it takes is one person, right? In the changing room, say, "Hey man, how you doing? Have a good workout." Or someone else in the class say, "Hey man, you've done this class before, you're looking forward to it." For people just to engage you, and all of a sudden it's like the staff at the gym can be incredible, but if the other people in the gym ignore you, you never quite feel at home. And that's the power, that's the opportunity we've got. And then the question I want to ask us is, what kind of experience do we create for people? What kind of a room, what kind of a community are we? Because actually, Paul addresses this. Paul talks about this in the New Testament. Paul is writing, and in the case I want to look at today, the church in Ephesus, a community made up of people from wildly different backgrounds. We've got Jews and we've got Gentiles. We've got people who had nothing in common culturally, ethnically, religiously, and now they're trying to figure out what it means to be the church together, to belong to each other. And in this one verse in Ephesians chapter 2, Paul, he writes this. He's saying to this group of very different people, you are no longer foreigners and strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people and also members of this household. You're no longer foreigners and strangers. No, Paul's saying, I want to give you a better picture of who you are. You're fellow citizens with God's people. He says, you're fellow citizens, like you belong to the same country. You're from the same group. Even though your passports might have different nationalities on them, actually you're part of the same group of people. And then he takes it, I think, a step further and says, hang on a minute, no, not only that, you're part of the same household. There's this journey that's packed inside this tiny little sentence. Paul doesn't describe an arrival, rather he describes a movement. There was a before and there's an after. Before, you're strangers and you're foreigners, but now after, you're fellow citizens, you're members of the same household. What are members of the same household? They're family. Something happened in between. It wasn't a program. It wasn't a strategy. It was a community of people, a collection of people who had made a choice to treat others as family before they felt like family. And here's the big idea that I want us to carry out of here today. That God's vision for every person who walks through our door, God's vision for you, God's vision for me, God's vision for every person that walks through our doors is that they would know that they're loved by Him. That people that come into this place would move from being a stranger to God to knowing that they're a child of God. And that's the journey that Paul describes in this verse. He doesn't just simply talk about a stranger becoming community, but rather stranger to family. And the family that God has in mind isn't our family. It's His family. And the most remarkable thing about this is that journey often begins not with a message, not with a teaching, not even with a moment of personal conviction. It generally begins with belonging. It begins with someone feeling, sometimes for the first time, that there's a community that they could actually belong to. A community where they're known. A community where they're accepted. A community that says, hey, you're valuable. You matter. You might have been told over and over and over that you're not valuable. You might have been told over and over and over that you don't matter. You might have experienced things that make you feel like you don't matter. You might have experienced things that make you feel like you don't belong. But when you come into this place, we want you to know that you matter. And every single person matters, and every person matters. Here's why. Because God loves them. Not because of what they've done, not because of what they're doing, not because of all the good things they've got going on in their life, but because this is what God says, that every single person is made in His image. And whether you realize that today or you don't realize that today, whether that's an easy truth for you to accept or a hard one for you to embrace, the reality is every single one of us is made in God's image. So every person matters. Every person matters so much to God, so deeply to God. Every person needs to matter to us too. And for many people, especially those of us that come along with no faith background, that feeling, that sense of belonging matters. That means something well before theology kicks in. People need to feel that they belong before they even contemplate what they believe. And we get to be that place where belonging begins. See, we're not the destination. The destination isn't to become Life Switch family. The destination is to become part of God's family. See, we're not the destination, but man, we can be the on-ramp. And do you know what? It's not the building that creates that. The music doesn't create that. My teaching certainly doesn't create that. But you create that. We create that by choosing to embrace that stranger, by choosing to embrace that person before they've chosen us. See, this idea that we can be part of God's family isn't something that just turns up in this one little verse. Rather, this is a theme that runs throughout the New Testament. I'll give you a couple other passages just so you can see this. That this theme is there. It's so prominent. It's so strong. It's so powerful. In Romans, Paul writes it this way. He says, the Spirit you received does not make you slaves so that you live in fear again. Rather, the Spirit you received brought about your adoption. You've become part of the family. Your adoption to sonship. And by Him we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit Himself testifies with our spirit that we are God's children. Now, if we are children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ. Oh, I think this is the richest sort of adoption text in the entire New Testament. This word Abba, it implies a intimate, a close, a familial, a child's word for their father. Paul is making the point here that the Spirit doesn't just grant access to God. It rather changes our identity because we're with God. We're now His children. John, he writes it this way in 1 John. He says, see what great love the Father has lavished upon us, that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are. Look at this. John can barely contain himself here. The word lavish, that's extravagant. This isn't a reluctant inclusion. God hasn't reluctantly included you or me or anyone else into His family. Rather, it's a picture of overwhelming generosity. We're all included. And in John's Gospel, his biography of Jesus' life, he says it this way, yet to all who did receive Him, to those who believed in His name, He gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or of a husband's will, but born of God. This isn't about a feeling or a hope. And in this passage, John makes it clear it's a legal and it's a relational reality. This is powerful. It's like, this isn't just something that like can happen, but rather it's a legal thing. It's contrasting between a natural family where you're sort of just placed within a family, and then the spiritual family where it's like, hang on, we've got this commitment to one another. See, this idea that when we come together, where family is so powerful, and we think about what family can mean, and the interesting thing with family is there's a whole lot of rights, but there's also a whole lot of responsibility, right? So when you're part of a family, there's certain rights. Like if it's your family and you go into your home, you can kind of make yourself at home. You can kind of relax, right? You can put your feet up on the couch. You can go into the fridge and you can grab some food. You can get a cup out of the cupboard and you can make a drink and you're good to go. You've got rights in that house. You've probably got a room which you can do whatever you want with, as long as you keep it just tidy enough that mum's happy, then everyone's happy, right? There's rights you've got with family, but there's also responsibility. We've got responsibilities as part of our family. As part of family, it's my responsibility to help keep the house tidy. One of the biggest challenges I have is we try and get the house tidy and everyone claims that they're not the one who messed it up. I didn't make that mess, so I don't care. I don't care who made the mess. You're here and I want it tidy. We've experienced that, right? So some of us, we've got to cook the meal, but we're not the one that's eating all of it. Some of us, we do the dishes, but we're not the one who used all the dishes. Sometimes we've got to wash the clothes, but we're not the one who wore all the clothes. There's responsibilities that come. But there's other responsibilities too, right? Like when someone comes into our house, it doesn't matter whose friend they are, we've all got a responsibility to be the host. We've all got a responsibility to make sure that person's comfortable. We've all got a responsibility to make sure that person's cared for, that they're noticed, that they're seen. If one of my kids brings a friend over, I hope my other kids are going to be polite and kind and respectful. I hope that I'm going to be the sort of person that looks out for them and has their interest top of mind. And in fact, when's the time we generally clean our house? Right before guests arrive, right? It can be a mess if dad's coming home. No one really cares if dad's coming in the door. Like, there can be shoes here, there can be dirty plates there, there can be dirty clothes across the floor here, there can be the empty bag or the half-empty bag with everything spread out. No one really matters. But if a guest's coming in, all of a sudden, get your bag sorted, get those clothes off the floor, get those dishes done, make the house look good. We've got guests coming into the house. See, as family, we've got rights, but we've also got responsibility. And I think one of the great opportunities we've got as we move into a different building, as we move into a different place, is to practice what it's like to be family. We've got the opportunity to say, hey, things are going to look different, things are going to feel different, but at the end of the day, for those of us who've been around Life Switch for a while, we've got the opportunity to say, hey, we're the family. And then as family, there becomes some rights, but there also becomes some responsibility. And what would it look like if as we move into a new building, if as for a period of time, it feels like we're all strangers a little bit because we're going into a different place where nothing is quite as familiar as what it is right now. What would it look like for us to say, hey, let's be the sort of person who embraces the stranger? And if we're going to do that practically, let me give you this idea. That for those of us who have been around Life Switch for a long time, maybe you've only been here for a short time, you can join in this challenge too. Don't feel excluded. You're part of the family. What would it look like for us to think of ourselves as the hosts, not the guests? You see, guests, they wait to be welcomed, but it's hosts that do the welcoming. So next Sunday as we move for the first week, and then every Sunday after, what would it look like if we all decide before we arrive that we're going to be the host rather than the guest? What would it look like if we said, hang on a minute, as I come into this space today, what if I have the mindset of, hey, I'm here as a host, not simply as a guest? I think everything changes. You see, as we make this shift, things are going to look different. Things are going to feel different. There's a whole lot of people that play such a valuable part in our serve team, making things happen every single week. But in this new space, in this new place, well, we just don't have as many actual roles that people need to fill every week over all of these weeks. And so people can feel like, oh man, I've got nothing to contribute, I've got nothing to do. But the reality is, if you come in as a host, you play a very, very important role every week, whether you're rostered on or not. You don't have to be part of this team or that team in order to have a sense of ownership, take some responsibility for what's going on. We just have a mindset shift that says, hang on a minute, I'm a host. And I might not have to deliver chips to a table today, but I can make sure everybody receives great hospitality even without chips in my hand, right? Oh, I may not be needed to be on stage today, playing my instrument today and helping people connect with God that way, but I can personally make sure I help people connect with each other and potentially connect with God in a different way. That if we just have this mindset that we're all hosts, not guests, everything changes. Everything changes. Because listen, when you have a guest come over to your house, you don't let them sit in the lounge all by themselves while you're running around mowing the lawns, doing a whole lot of stuff, right? You make sure those guests are comfortable. You make sure they're taken care of. You make sure they feel seen, that they feel noticed, that they feel heard. We should be doing that for person after person after person as they come into this place. And listen. It's not just the guest that's here for the first time. It's not just the guest that's here for the third time. It's not just that person who's here for the fifth time. If we're going to be this type of community that Paul urges us to be, we should be consistently looking out for the person who's alone, for the person who's sitting by themselves, for the person who's standing there awkwardly, for the person who just looks like they don't quite belong yet, for that person who's isolated. We can find that person. We can have eyes out for that person and make sure they feel connected. And we might say, well, hang on a minute, they're at a different age group than me, they're a different demographic than me, they've got a different background to me. That's the power of what Paul's talking about. That's the power of understanding what that church at Ephesus really looked like. These people were so different. Culturally, you couldn't get further apart than the Jews and the Gentiles. And yet Paul's saying, hang on a minute, guys, you're all part of the same family. Different ages, different backgrounds, different stories, different interests, different things you might engage with. Hang on, you're all part of the same family. And what would it look like? What would it look like if every week when we walked in, we said, hang on a minute, I'm a host here, not a guest. How can I help someone connect with someone? How can I just scan that crowd and look for that person and make them feel like it? And I'll go give you a few tips here, a few tips on this, right? Because the concept of this is easy. It's the doing it that's hard. The concept, we understand, right? Put it into practice is the difficult part. But here's a few little things. The first one's this. The first one's show up early. Show up early. One of the big changes we're going to see when we go into the grassland space is we're not going to have the cafe running the way that we've had the cafe running. There's just not the space to be able to do all that we do. There's not the kitchen facilities to do all that we do. And the cafe is something that makes a life switch so special. It's something that's different. It's something unique. It's something remarkable. And we've got incredible people that make that run week after week after week after week, and they do an incredible job so that it's really easy for us to create spaces where people can connect. But as we go onto the grasslands, we're not going to have that available to us. And so what we're going to encourage people to do, what we're going to ask you to do, is shift your routine just a little bit. Can you turn up early rather than staying around afterwards? If you're coming to the 9:30 service, turn up at 9 o'clock and engage and connect with people. If you're coming to the 11 o'clock service, turn up at 10:30 and engage and connect with people. Now listen, I know and I understand that this is countercultural. That a lot of us have perfected the art of sliding in just as things are getting started, right? We've got it down right. We just slide in the door as things are going. But those few minutes before the service kicks off can actually be the most valuable time we have. If people are finding their feet, it's when you see someone coming in and they're just standing awkwardly near the entrance, wondering. I can't talk normally. You have people standing there wondering if they've made the right decision by coming along today. Come on, having a group of us that are there early, relaxed, ready to engage can be the difference between someone deciding to stay and slipping quietly back out the door. So we're just going to say, hey, come up, turn up early. We'll be ready for you early. Come early, change your routine. I know we're people of routine. But I just think something so special can happen. We say, hey, instead of having all this time at the end, what if we showed up early? You can still connect with people afterwards. You can still make arrangements and go and meet somewhere, invite someone around for lunch or go out for a coffee somewhere or do a whole lot of stuff. And that will be incredibly powerful in terms of helping cement community. But what would it look like? Just whatever time you're used to leaving the house to be here now, just turn that clock forward about half an hour or so and get out just a little bit earlier. And if that's too hard to do, put it back just a little bit and come to the later service and you'll be able to do it. But just look, if we're going to be the hosts, we've got to show up early. We're going to be looking out for people. We're going to be there primed. We're going to be there relaxed. We're going to be present. We're going to be there early. So think about it, right? When you have people over to your house, you don't invite someone over at 7 o'clock and then walk in your own door at 10 past 7, do you? If someone's coming at 7, most of the time, we've got the house ready and prepared by about 6:30, right? You've got everything looking the way it should be well early. You've got the house smelling right. If you want some background music on, you put that on a little bit earlier. If you want something out, you make sure that's out well before 7 o'clock. You don't leave them sitting in their car while you come in 10 minutes late. Come on, that's what we should be like as the church. We're going to show up early, communicate something. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to see someone. We're going to see someone. And this takes intentionality because this is your default, this is my default, this is kind of humanity's default, right? Is to find the people that we already know and gravitate towards them, walk in their direction. And there's nothing wrong with that, other than the fact that it leaves a whole lot of other people feeling invisible. So before you gravitate to the people you know, before you gravitate to those that you feel really, really comfortable with, just take 30 seconds, take 60 seconds, scan the room, see who's there. See who's alone, see who's awkward. See who is in that place where they're like, that place that you've been. Come on, that place that I've been, that place that sucks to be. And walk over and engage with them. Look for that person who might have pulled out their phone. That person who's hovering near the entrance. The one that's sitting by themselves. Come on, you'll know them when you see them. And let's have the courage to walk across the room. And here's the thing. Here's what pushes back on us sometimes. Here's why we don't do that. Because it's awkward. Because it's awkward. But this is where we can step up. This is where we can take a level of responsibility. Because things are already awkward for them. When we walk over, we choose to take the awkward off them and put it on us. It doesn't make the awkward go away, but it makes them a whole lot less awkward, even if it makes us a little bit more awkward. But it's worth it. It's worth it. Because you've been in that environment. You've been in that space. You've been in that place where someone's done it for you. And you're so thankful. And you appreciated it so much. So we're going to show up early. We're going to see someone. And then all we've got to do is say something. All we've got to do is say something. Now, this is the part that so many people can overthink. This is the part where all the introverts in the room are going, what are you talking about, Clint? And what's interesting, when Paul gives us this concept, he doesn't split us up and say, okay, church, extroverts, nail it, introverts, do what you want. Extroverts, you're part of this family. Introverts, you're loners, go be by yourself. He doesn't split this up. And then do you know what I've seen? I've seen some introverts in our community do this better than so many people. In fact, I know, and I don't want to name them publicly because that's not very fair, and they're introverts. I probably won't say anything, but they'll kill me like 10 times in their head, right? But I've seen these people, and they are some of the most incredible community builders, because I hear stories about how they had these people over for dinner. They had these people over that Saturday night. They went out with these people on a Wednesday night, and they went into this, and I'm like, hang on, you're like the most introverted person I know. Yet incredible community builders. What we should never, ever do. I get that there's introversion and there's extroversion, and that's a very real thing. But what we should never, ever let happen is these other labels come upon us that take us outside of what God calls us to do and what God calls us to be. But here's the thing, we've got to say something. And then look, we don't need to have a clever opener. We don't need to have this perfect line. We don't need to know someone's story. We don't need to have all the answers in case they ask hard questions or do anything. All we need to do is go first. Hey, I'm Clint. Have you been around LifeSwitch for a while? Do you know what line don't use? Don't use this line. Don't say, is this your first time here? Because most of the time it's not. It's just the first time you've seen them, right? Hey, I'm Clint. Have you been around LifeSwitch long? If that is their first time here, they'll say, oh, actually, no. It's my first time here. Perfect. Oh, well, we're so glad you're here. You picked a great Sunday to be here. I'm playing here. Better be a good Sunday, God, I just told them. Every Sunday's a good Sunday, right? But just hey, have you been around LifeSwitch long? Just a nice, easy line. That's enough. Most people are just looking for someone to make it easy for them to connect. You or I making that first move, all it takes. Introduce them to someone else. You might know a few people. Make sure they feel, do you know everything is? Do you know where the kids are going? Do you know what's happening? Make it easy. So that's all we got to do. Show up early. See someone. Go and say something. Show up early. See someone. Go and say something. Do you know what breaks my heart? What breaks my heart so often is when I see people alone. And we've got an incredible team. We've got people at the door that say hi. We've got people that help you find a seat. We've got people all throughout the place that are there like doing roles to help people sort of connect and make sure people feel seen. And then those people do a great job. But what they do, in a lot of ways, is kind of like that receptionist at the gym. Except for they're not being paid for it. They're doing it out of kindness and goodness because they want to serve. But it's what we do, it's what we say. It's our willingness to see someone sitting alone and go and sit by them. It makes such a difference. And sometimes it's not a person sitting alone. It might be a family sitting alone, or a couple sitting alone, or two new friends that have come together sitting alone. And what it takes is us to have the courage to walk across the room, to connect, to say hi, to engage. And so I reckon this. I reckon as we move over to the Grasslands next week, as things feel a little bit unfamiliar, as things look different, smell different, feel a bit different, our experience is a little bit different, the room's different, that's all good. Because it's who we are, not where we are, that really matters. And we have the opportunity to make sure every person who comes in feels like family. That every person feels noticed. That every person starts to feel known, like they belong, that they feel valued. And here's why we do this, right? Because it's one thing to say this, and we go, but here's why we do this. Because Jesus, he's our ultimate example. He showed up early for you and he showed up early for me. He didn't wait for me to get my life together. He didn't wait for me to step in his direction before he stepped in mine. He didn't wait for me to show him that I loved him before he showed his love to me. No. Well before I'd chosen him, he first chose me. Well before you had even heard of him, he first knew you and chose you and stepped in your direction. He went to the cross for you and for me well before we ever did anything for him. He showed up early. Come on. He saw you. He saw you. This is the part that blows my mind, right? He knows you. Like, he knows everything about you. Like, he knows all those incredible things that you're so proud of and those accomplishments that you've got and those stories you love to blemish and tell others about. He knows that. But he doesn't just know the good things about you. He knows the worst things about you. He knows those thoughts you've had pop up in your head about that person that you just wish wouldn't pop up anymore. He knows that decision that you made that you haven't told anyone else about. He knows about those habits. He knows about the destruction that you've caused. He knows about the way that you've hurt people. He knows everything about you. And yet he still loves you. See, he sees you. And even though we're vastly different than him, he still chooses us. And this is cool. Jesus didn't simply say something. He did something. See, saying's a lot easier than doing. It's easier to say, I love you. It's a lot harder to do things that show that I love you. Saying, easy. Yeah, I care for you. Yeah. You showed me that you care, right? Jesus didn't simply say something. He showed us. And if he's willing to do that for us, if he is our perfect example, shouldn't we be willing to do that for those that are around us? Let's remember that we are the hosts, not the guests. Hopefully we all have a great experience. But if we all come along and say, hey, I'm the host. This is my place. I'm going to do everything I can to make everyone else in my place feel comfortable. I'm going to make sure my place is clean, is tidy, that it's smelling good, that it's looking good. Oh, I'm going to make sure that no one walks out unseen, unheard, that no one walks out feeling like, I didn't want them here. Won't that change everything? It's who we are, not where we are, that matters. So let me pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much that you have given us the opportunity to be part of your family. Like, how special is that? That we can be sons, that we can be daughters of God. That the creator of the heavens and the earth calls us not to be his slaves, but rather to be his sons, to be his daughters. Thank you so much that you created a family that we can be part of. Thank you so much that you included us. And Father, just as you've included us, help us to include others. Just as you looked out for us, help us to look out for others. Just as you've done so much for us. And you took on yourself all the pain, all the discomfort, all the shame of including us. Help us, maybe just to take on the awkward for the sake of someone else. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.